Hello there everybody, how is it going and how have you been? I am EuclideanSqd, and we're back here in Duel Links to check out the re-release of the Rise of Yubel event. Now this is specifically the character unlock event for the Yubel character from the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX anime. I'm also pretty sure that Yubel unlocks in a very different way compared to most characters. I will get into that after the farming duel when we look at the event rewards and that sort of thing. But the main thing about this event is that Yubel has a very, very odd strategy for their deck. And as such, you generally will need a very odd strategy of your own in order to successfully farm at level 40 in this event. So that is something that I've been able to construct. I found a deck recipe on the GameA website, and I did not see any credits to any other external sites or any specific people, so I'm guessing that whoever runs GameA came up with this, or found it and forgot to give credit, I don't know, but that's where the link down in the description is going. And I know there's a lot of super rare tags, but this is actually a lot cheaper than the original deck recipe. In fact, I'd say that I changed maybe half of the cards in this deck to just make it cheaper. And the other nice thing is that probably half of the super rares are also optional, and if you don't have them, you don't need them. They work better, but there's who knows however many cards out there that you could easily replace them with. So the general strategy of the original deck is to effectively turtle up against Yubel, as is generally tradition with a deck that relies on the Winged Dragon of Ra, gather life points with Golden Ladybug, summon Ra, attack for over 10,000 damage, and you win. Now, as I've constantly advocated, or constantly reminded, I don't know if Ra is available at the moment. So if you don't have the Winged Dragon of Ra and you can't get your hands on it, Neo-Parshoth the Sky Paladin is a perfect replacement. And in fact, I'd actually argue that against Yubel, and in particular if you are using this deck that you see on screen, Neo-Parshoth is even better than Ra. Because Parshoth can deal piercing damage, which is it deals battle damage even if it attacks something in defense mode, whereas Ra cannot. Now granted, you do also need the Sanctuary in the Sky for Parshoth to actually gain any attack points, so that is an extra card you have to put in. But that is actually counterbalanced by being able to take out a couple of cards that Ra would have to rely on to deal any battle damage in the first place. So it kind of evens out overall. Now, in particular, when you are summoning Neo-Parshoth, you're going to be using this combination of cards, Cosmic Compass and Double Summon. Double Summon is a super rare, unfortunately. You can find it in a certain box in the store. Thankfully, I think it's a mini box. In fact, I'll just go ahead and check right now. It is... no, it's a big box. Sorry. So, hopefully you have a copy of this. If you don't, I don't really know what to tell you. It's kind of hit or miss whether you can keep multiple monsters on the field until the end of the duel. It really depends on what Yubel decides to do. So if you don't have Double Summon, I don't know if the strategy can work. Maybe there's something that could special summon stuff to your side of the field that you could then tribute for Parshoth, but I honestly don't know. However, when you use Double Summon, you get to conduct a second normal summoning this turn. So what you do is you use Double Summon, get the second normal summoning, normal summon Cosmic Compass first, which, when normal summoned, you can special summon a number of Compass tokens up to the number of monsters your opponent controls. Ideally, Yubel will have at least one, so you get one more token, and then you contribute both of those for Parshoth. Now, this is relatively easier than the Ra strategy, considering Ra needs 3 tributes, so you would need Yubel to have 2 monsters in play. There's been times where that's happened, there's been times where that hasn't, so that's another thing you kind of have to weigh for yourself. But generally, you do that, you summon Parshoth, Parshoth attacks for over 10,000, you win. And when it comes to getting there, there's a few tricks that this deck has to make that easier on you. First off is this other super rare card called Wonder Balloons. This is a continuous spell. Once per turn, you can set any number of cards from your hand to the graveyard to place a balloon counter on this card for each card that was sent. All monsters your opponent controls lose 300 attack for each balloon counter on this card. Now, if you're worried that you absolutely need a copy of this card to stop Yubel from doing any sort of attacks, you don't actually have to worry, because most of Yubel's monsters actually have no attack points. In fact, there's only one that Yubel has called Mystic Tomato, and it's only got 1400, so any monster with a significant amount of defense will just be able to block Yubel from attacking you at all. And in fact, Wonder Balloons is only in this deck so that you can nullify Mystic Tomato and then just leave whatever you need in attack mode face up on the field. Now, the original recipe called for Skullmark Ladybugs, with the idea being that you could either put it on the field to block Mystic Tomatoes, or send it to the graveyard for Wonder Balloons' effect and gain 1,000 life points per Ladybug's effect. However, that is just another super rare card, and I was able to find a pretty decent replacement in the form of Spirit of the Breeze. Now, getting Spirit of the Breeze is a little odd. You can get them from rare tickets at the PvP arena or by leveling up certain characters. And as long as this card remains in face-up attack position on your side of the field, you gain 1,000 life points during each of your standby phases. Now, that is generally very risky, considering Spirit of the Breeze has no attack points, but considering most of Yubel's monsters don't have any attack points either, you're actually pretty safe most of the time to leave Spirit of the Breeze in attack mode. And in fact, I don't know if this is a certainty, but sometimes Yubel just might not have Mystic Tomatoes, or will generally want to play them if you don't have anything. Actually, no, scratch that. Of course Yubel would want to play a Mystic Tomato, because that's free battle damage if you don't have anything, so... point is that there's only 3 cards in Yubel's deck that can deal battle damage. All 3 of them are Mystic Tomatoes, so if you're feeling confident, you could try leaving Spirit of the Breeze face up, even if Wonder Balloons isn't strong enough to nullify Mystic Tomato. Could bite you in the butt, but at the same time, you're also going to be getting 1,000 life points per turn, which is also really, really nice. Now, that said, Yubel does have several cards that can just destroy your monsters, so Spirit of the Breeze isn't quite as good as Skullmark Ladybug in that sense, but of course the trade-off there is that Spirit of the Breeze could get you more life points overall than Skullmark Ladybug could. So, again, if you have the Skullmark Ladybugs, go ahead and use them, but Spirit of the Breeze is a really cheap, easy-to-find alternative to those, if you don't happen to have them. Now, aside from that, there are Skullangles in this deck to help you draw cards. I can't remember however many the original recipe called for. I have added 3 just because this deck got a little bit bigger than normal. And these super rares are completely optional. Thunder Dragon says that during your main phase, you can discard this card and add up to 2 other Thunder Dragons from your deck to your hand. This is fantastic, because the idea is that you discard a Thunder Dragon, you remove 2 cards from your deck, and then ideally, you immediately send those 2 to the graveyard for Wonder Balloons' effect. So that right there is 2 cards out of your deck and another 600 points off of Yubel's Tomatoes, and it's that much less damage for Yubel to be able to do. Now, here's where things get a little complicated to explain. So in the original strategy with Ra, the idea was that you do the whole Cosmic Compass thing and you summon 2 tokens. Before you actually tribute summon for Ra, however, you would use another super rare card called Creature Seizure. And what Creature Seizure would do is it will let you exchange one monster of your opponent's with one of your normal monsters, of which tokens actually count as a normal monster. So the idea was that you would summon the 2 cosmic tokens in attack mode, switch them for something of Yubel's, tribute for Ra, then attack the token. But as I mentioned, that actually requires Yubel to have 2 monsters in play at the end of the duel, and that doesn't always happen. Additionally, I believe the original recipe called for a couple of copies of another super rare called Hey Trunade to just send Yubel's set cards back to their hand. I have not done that because, again, that's another super rare, and I'm all about trying to make these decks as cheap and easy to create as possible. So these are the alternatives that I have come up with. First off is the Counter Trap card, Counter Counter. You negate the activation of a Counter Trap card and destroy it. The reason this is here, instead of Hey Trunade, is that the only trap card of Yubel's that you actually really kind of have to worry about is going to be a Counter Trap card. In fact, it's called Ultimate Providence, and they will likely use it to try and counter something of yours. So if you have counter set, you don't have to worry about Ultimate Providence, and it's kind of hit or miss whether Yubel can even activate that anyway. But if you are worried, add counters to your deck if you don't have Hatronade, and in fact it kind of works better because you can just let these sit and wait for whenever Yubel tries to use Ultimate Providence and then spring it and stop them. Now, instead of the whole summon an extra token, swap it with another super rare sort of nonsense, I was actually able to find this card, Foolish Revival. You select one monster from your opponent's graveyard and special summon it in face-up defense position on your opponent's side of the field. This is particularly why I'm saying that Neo-Parshoth might be a better option than Raw, is because not only is it much easier to summon, but because it is piercing battle damage, you can use this to guarantee that Yubel has something on their side of the field that you can deal damage to. Now, I know that sounds like a bit of a weird statement because you're probably thinking, well, if they don't have anything on the field, just attack anyway. Not exactly how Yubel's deck works. Yubel is technically a card spirit, which in the lore of the anime is basically a monster from one of the cards brought to life. And all of the Yubel cards say that their controller takes no battle damage from battles that involve that card. So if the only monsters that Yubel has are other Yubel cards, you can't deal any battle damage even if you attack them. So that's why Foolish Revival is here, is that you activate it on the final turn, summon pretty much anything out of Yubel's graveyard in defense mode, and then Parshoth does piercing through that and just ignores Yubel entirely. So hopefully that all makes sense. Ideally it will click a little bit more once we see it in action in the farming duel. But one last thing I want to mention is that as far as I'm aware, you don't technically need any skill to make this deck work. So you could substitute in whatever skills you want, Draw Sense Spell Trap, Draw Sense Low Level, Draw Sense High Level, whatever. I have decided to go with Hasselberry's Dino DNA ability, just because that gets me another 200 life points per turn. So even if the Golden Ladybugs are hiding somewhere deep in the deck, I'm still at least getting a small trickle of life points over time, and that generally does help me make sure that Parshoth has enough attack points to knock out Yubel and deal over 10,000 damage. So, with that very long and very complicated deck strategy out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at Yubel's reward cards. So a lot of these are repeats from the last time that Yubel was here. Some of them are new. A new card is the Shadow Who Controls the Dark. Level 3 Dark Fiend. It's a normal monster, 800 attack, 700 defense. Maybe you could find something for it, I don't know. The other normals are repeats and they're kind of in the same thing. A level 3 Earth Warrior with 1200 attack and 900 defense. And a level 4 Earth Warrior with 1600 attack and 800 defense. This one's slightly more useful than the other two, but there's also better cards out there if you have them. Now in terms of the rares, the Fusion is nothing to write home about. It's a 1900 attacks, 1700 defense fusion of two of Yubel's normal drops, so not great. I mean, again, if you don't have anything else, you could use this, but there's much better options. But the new rare is actually kind of cool. This is Renge, Gatekeeper of Dark World, a level 4 Dark Fiend, normal monster, but with 100 attack and 2100 defense. So I think Renge actually is now the current highest defense points that you could have on a level 4 or lower monster. I think. There might be one or two that have a little bit more, but 2100 is really, really good if you need some kind of big defender for your deck. Moving on, we have a super rare that was available last time, Samsara Lotus, a level 1 Dark Plant, no attack and defense. During your end phase, if you control no spell or trap cards, you can special summon this card from your graveyard in face-up attack position. This card's controller takes 1000 damage during each of their standby phases. Now, very odd card. Unless you're using Yubel for a reason we will get to soon, I don't really know what the point of this would be. Maybe there's something I'm not thinking of, I don't know. A new super rare is Evil Swarm Hrelsveg, I think I said that right. A level 4 Dark Winged Beast with 1150 attack and 1850 defense. And a pretty cool flip effect too. You get to target one face-up card your opponent controls, and return that target to the hand. And because this is a flip effect, you could easily set Hrelsveg if your opponent has something big and scary on the field, and as soon as Hrelsveg is flipped face up, you just get rid of it. Whether it attacked or not, just gone. And the final super rare is Regenerating Rose, a level 7 dark plant with 0 attack and 1500 defense. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 2 Regenerating Rose tokens, which are plant type, level 3 darks with 1200 attack and defense. And it just occurred to me, if you were wondering why I have 10 Yubels and 16 Samsara Lotuses, those are leftovers from the last time the event came around. I have not gotten around to cleaning out my card catalog in a long time. The new ultra rare is Duke Shade, the Sinister Shadow Lord. Level 4 Dark Fiend, 500 attack, 2000 defense. You contribute any number of dark monsters, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, it gains 500 attack for each monster you tributed. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can target one level 5 or higher dark monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can only use each effect of Duke Shade, the Sinister Shadow Lord once per turn, and you cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate either of this card's effects except other dark monsters. So, I'm not entirely sure what purpose this thing has. Within the context of what cards Yubel has, I assume that you can use it to recover a Yubel from your graveyard. But other than that, I don't really know. So, again, it's one of those things where I'm sure there's something that I'm just oblivious to, but pretty cool card anyway. I mean, 2000 defense is nothing, it's not anything bad. You can special summon it, so you could then immediately normal summon something else, like a tuner monster, or tribute it for something, or whatever. So, it certainly has some other sort of esoteric uses, but moving on, we have the final ultra rare, Yubel. Level 10 Dark Fiend with no attack and defense, and a very long, very complicated effect. This card cannot be destroyed by battle. You take no battle damage from battles involving this card. Before damage calculation, when this face-up attack position card is attacked by an opponent's monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's attack. During your end phase, you must tribute one other monster or destroy this card. And finally, when this card is destroyed, except by its own effect, its owner can special summon one Yubel Terror Incarnate from their hand, deck, or graveyard. So, effectively, Yubel can only be destroyed by card effects, and when you destroy it with a card effect, it summons something even worse to the field. And if you try to attack it, it just reflects battle damage back at you. So this is a very obnoxious card to deal with, and as you might imagine, Yubel's deck is actually really good at summoning it. Which is part of why you need such a weird, very passively but not sort of strategy to deal with Yubel's deck, is because this thing and its further incarnations are going to be on the field pretty regularly when you're dueling Yubel, and they effectively change the entire way you have to duel if you still want to win. So, one thing actually that I just realized, I think they actually took an ultra rare card out. I vaguely remember a card, which we will probably see during the duel, so I might as well just move on. But I vaguely remember another reward card called Grave Squirmer. I want to say it's a level 1 Dark Fiend with no attack and defense. It's in Yubel's deck, so odds are we will see it at some point. But its effect is actually very powerful. Basically, whenever it is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, the controller gets to just pick any card your opponent... The controller gets to pick any card of their opponents and destroy it. Monster, spell, trap, doesn't matter. It's gone. Alright. So in this case, Yubel has started with a Mystic Tomato. So I cannot summon Spirit of the Breeze in attack mode, lest I take battle damage, so I'm just going to go ahead and set it. And I might as well use Thunder Dragon as well to thin my deck out a little bit. And actually, let's go ahead and set Counter Counter as well, just to have it ready to go. So, when it comes to actually using this deck, as you'll see, the strategy is to put something on the field to stop Yubel from just outright attacking you. However, I would not recommend going for a second monster most of the time, because Yubel actually has a copy of Lava Golem as well, which is a monster that Yubel can special summon to your side of the field by tributing 2 of your monsters, and while it is a 3,000 attack point monster, during every one of your standby phases, it deals 1,000 damage to you. And considering how the Yubel monsters work, if Yubel has one of their forms on the field, you try to attack, you take 3,000 damage back, or you just leave it on your field and it just slowly burns you away. So generally try not to have 2 monsters in play at once. Yubel only has 1 copy of it, so it's possible that they may just not have it. And here comes a Yubel, so here we go. Generally, when I'm dueling Yubel, the only time that I will put a second monster in play is if it is a Skull Engel. Because, again, they only have the 1 Lava Golem, so they may not have it right away. And oftentimes, Yubel will just attack the Skull Engel, even if it's a Yubel form with no attack points, which will let you use the flip effect and get an extra draw out of it. Yeah, tripping over my own tongue. So, after you get something in play to defend yourself, the next order of business is to get 1 copy of Counter Counter set as soon as possible. Generally, Yubel will probably waste their ultimate providences on something like the golden ladybugs in your hand. And alright, I'm not going to get Spirit of the Breeze. I thought I could, but anyway. I'm just gonna toss my other spirit. I've had Yubel use Ultimate Providence on anything from the Golden Ladybugs to trying to play Sanctuary in the Sky. So it's possible that Counter Counter will be used on something that isn't quite that important. But for example, if you only have the 1 Golden Ladybug and Yubel tries to stop it, go ahead and use Counter Counter to protect you. Like this. I mean, I have 3, but I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of it. But yeah, I would generally recommend having a counter set just for whenever Yubel tries to get fancy with Ultimate Providence. Other than that, you will want in the other 2 zones Wonder Balloons and a Foolish Revival. Foolish Revival is admittedly a little bit of a risk because sometimes Yubel will get all 3 field zones filled and then you don't have space to play double summon. But more times than not, Yubel will end up summoning this thing, Yubel Terror Incarnate. Now, most of this effect is identical to regular Yubel. Can't be destroyed, take no battle damage. When this face-up attack position card is attacked, your opponent takes battle damage, but it's treated as effect damage. Although it does have 2 differences. First off, it cannot be normal summoned or set. It has to be special summoned by the effect of Yubel. No other ways. And secondly, unlike regular Yubel, which requires a tribute at the end of each turn to stay on the field, Terror Incarnate does not need that. Instead, it simply says that during the end phase, destroy every other monster on the field, except this thing. Both Yubel's and yours. So, this thing is specifically why I say you probably won't be able to carry multiple monsters into the last turn, because it's actually very difficult for Yubel to go from this thing to the final form, which is Yubel the Ultimate Nightmare. So a lot of the times Terror Incarnate will just be sitting there on the field blowing stuff up turn after turn after turn, and then you get to the end of the duel, you only have like the 1 normal summon, you can't summon Neo Parshoth or Wing Dragon of Ra or whatever, so you're stuck. But yeah. And then actually, that does remind me, Terror Incarnate does have 1 more effect. When this face-up card leaves the field, does not have to be destroyed, could be tributed, could be just sent, but when it leaves the field, that is when Yubel gets to special summon the Ultimate Nightmare from their hand, deck, or graveyard. In fact, I wanna... yeah, so this is Grave Squirmer, by the way. I'm pretty sure that this was an ultra rare drop when the first Yubel, or when the first time around with this event came, so I guess they just took it out. I don't know if you can get it from the EX Trader. Maybe you can, I don't know, but if not, that kind of sucks, because this is actually a really, really good card. And then, this is the Ultimate Nightmare. Much like Terror Incarnate, it cannot be normal summoned or set. It has to be special summoned by the effect of the previous form. This card cannot be destroyed by battle. Again, takes no battle damage from battles involving it. However, it's quite different from the other two. Unlike the other two, which have to be attacked in order to deal damage to the opponent, this thing can freely attack your opponent's monsters, deal their attack to your opponent as effect damage, and then after the battle, that monster is just destroyed. So if Yubel actually gets the Ultimate Nightmare in play, they will start attacking with it, and that will cause things like the Skull Engels to deal small amounts of effect damage to you. So just be mindful of that. At the rate this is, in fact, all three of their Mystic Tomatoes are in the graveyard, so I don't have to worry about using Wonder Balloons. Yeah, just be forewarned if Yubel does somehow get to the Ultimate Nightmare form. However, the one good thing is that the Ultimate Nightmare doesn't special summon anything when it's destroyed. So that is the one thing that is okay to use effect or card effects to destroy. Otherwise, you're probably just going to end up in a point like this where you're just kind of sitting there while they have Terror Incarnate in play, not playing anything, or just playing Skull Engels. Obviously, save your Foolish Revival for the end of the duel. You don't want to special summon something just for Yubel to then go ahead and blow it up and ruin the whole point of summoning it in the first place. But yeah, this is a very weird strategy. You kind of have to adapt to whatever Yubel ends up doing. So if they get Terror Incarnate in play, just kind of stop playing monsters. If they get to the point of, or if they never play Terror Incarnate and they just have a whole bunch of things like tomatoes and grave squirmers and stuff on the field, go ahead and set like a Spirit of the Breeze or possibly Skull Engels, I guess, to absorb attacks and not have to really worry about it. Use Wonder Balloons to weaken Mystic Tomatoes so it's easier for you to out-heal it. And yeah, otherwise that's kind of the trick with this deck, is just figuring out what Yubel is doing and then doing the opposite. So I'm going to go ahead and set my last Skull Engel. This will get me down to 1, and then we can end the duel on the next turn, or Yubel could just tribute to the Doomed it. A little surprised that Yubel didn't tribute to the Doomed themselves, which I think would let them summon the Ultimate Nightmare, but I'm not sure. And actually that is reminding me that yes, Yubel does have multiple copies of Tribute to the Doomed. Oftentimes they will discard a version of Yubel because it doesn't matter. They can freely summon any of them out of the graveyard. Any of the advanced forms of Yubel can be summoned with the previous form's effect, and the regular Yubel, they will regularly special summon with the effect of a trap card called Limit Reverse. Limit Reverse is a continuous spell. You pick something with less than 1,000 attack in your graveyard and special summon it in attack position. However, if it is ever changed to defense position, it is destroyed. And Yubel will frequently use Limit Reverse, revive the initial Yubel stage, and then put it in defense mode, which destroys it, and then summon Terror Incarnate, which no, they tribute for Yubel this time around. But that is more often than not how Yubel is going to get Terror Incarnate out. Yeah, this is the Limit Reverse trap, so if you want to finish reading it, that's I basically summed it up for you. Alright, so let's go ahead and use Double Summon. We will go ahead and summon Cosmic Compass. Use Cosmic Compass's effect to get a token in play. Tribute the 2 for Neo-Parshoth. Use Foolish Revival. I generally pick the Grave Squirmers because they have 0 defense, but you can pick anything that is not a Yubel stage. So, yeah, there you go. and then we attack the grave scorer, and in this case, 22,000 damage for a win. And for as weird as this strategy is, I haven't lost once to Yubel yet. Well, okay, no. That is a lie. While I was still figuring out the specifics of the deck, I lost to Yubel a few times. But that was mainly because I was still figuring out the strategy, and I hadn't yet found that Foolish Revival fixes a lot of the problems that the deck had. Primarily, that is, making sure there's something on the field that Parshoth can attack and deal battle damage with. So, you know, that's in-person farming demonstration, I guess. So let's go ahead and start reviewing the event itself. Now, as I mentioned, I'm pretty sure that Yubel you unlock very differently from other characters. In other events, you typically unlock the event character at a specific cumulative score, but in this case, where is it? Actually, I think it's over here. Yeah, here. It just says complete challenge 3. So I think as soon as you complete a specific challenge duel, you unlock Yubel. And what's more is that challenge duel is actually pretty easy to get to. Like if we go over here and look at challenge 3, unlocked by completing challenge 2 and collecting 80 or more shattered hearts, which by the way are just the name for the tokens in this event, which you get constantly. Challenge 2 is unlocked by completing challenge 1 and collecting 50 or more shattered hearts. And challenge 1 is unlocked by just collecting 20 or more shattered hearts. So, in other words, just do a little bit of dueling against NPCs and stuff. You'll probably get close to 80, if, you know, and if not, just wait a little bit or use some dual orbs or go into the PvP arena or whatever. And then beat a level 10 AI, a level 20 AI, and then you get to fight Yubel. Like, it's pretty easy to unlock Yubel if I'm interpreting this correctly. After Challenge 3, there is Challenge 4, which is unlocked after a certain point in time, and by finishing Challenge 3 and collecting a certain amount of event points, and then Challenge 5 is the same thing, it unlocks later on. You have to beat Challenge 4 first and get even more event points. And those are going to be duels against harder Yubel difficulties, and those will get you different cards as a reward. So if we go back over here, you get a copy of Yubel in the Yubel deck when you unlock them, I believe. I don't think you get either of the other two, but you can also get them just as reward cards for dueling against Yubel, and I think at certain scores, but I'm not sure. But interestingly, Yubel Terror Incarnate and Yubel the Ultimate Nightmare are also available for you to get multiple copies of. And the main reason I'm saying this is interesting is that first time around with this event, you could only get one copy of each, and that was from those special challenge duels. So like you beat them, you got the, you know, Terror Incarnate and Ultimate Nightmare cards, and that was it. You only had the one copy. But in this case, I mean, you still get a copy for finishing the challenge duels, but you can also just go ahead and, well, actually, no, that makes sense, because you can only buy one copy from the EX card traders, so that is an alternative if the challenge duels are proving a bit too difficult and you just can't seem to beat them, but you still really want the cards. I just still find it a little weird that Konami's letting us get multiple copies of such powerful cards. Although I guess they're not really that powerful. You probably don't want multiple copies of anything but the base Yubel in your deck, so fair enough. I love that I start off complaining about something, and then as I'm complaining about it, I come to understand it is actually quite reasonable. I'm tired. What else is new? Oh yeah, there's also a new skill available for Yubel, which you unlock at 1.9 million points. It's called Painful Evolution. While you control either a Yubel or a Yubel Terror Incarnate, you can choose one of the following. You can send the Yubel you control to the graveyard to play Terror Incarnate from your hand, or send the Terror Incarnate you control to play the Ultimate Nightmare from your hand. So, unlike having to find some way of destroying both of the previous forms to make it, quote-unquote, evolve into the next one, you can go ahead and equip this skill, which you can only use once per duel, by the way, and then just activate it whenever you want. You don't have to be below a certain amount of life points, although I have a feeling they may patch that in at some point. You don't have to wait a specific time into the duel to use it. Just you could summon Yubel and then right away activate Painful Evolution and change it into Terror Incarnate. So, pretty interesting skill, very much works with Yubel. Though, of course, you know, when you have Yubel unlocked as a character, you can give them whatever deck you want. You don't have to use Yubel in their decks. Although there are also bonus missions for gems that you can do. Specifically, play as Yubel, win with Yubel in the deck, summon Yubel, summon Terror Incarnate, and I'm sure there's going to be a summon the Ultimate Nightmare when that's available. And let's go ahead and take a look at the cumulative rewards now. So, go all the way back to the beginning. There's the usual assortment of gems and jewels and such like that. At 100,000 points, you will get a copy of Renge. At 200,000 points, you'll get a Samsara Lotus. At... where's the next one? At 710,000, you get a copy of Evil Swarm Hrelsveg. At... where is it? You get something at 1.3, and I'm not entirely sure what it is. I say something because generally when there's a one-time only unlock for something, like say a character, when the event is re-released, anybody who has already unlocked that character or already gotten said item, like a game mat or card sleeves or whatever, that is replaced with an ultra rare jewel for them. So something I already have is here, but I have no idea what it is because, again, if I'm interpreting the event correctly, you unlock Yubel in a completely different way compared to getting event points. So, maybe that was the card sleeves? I don't know. Maybe I missed seeing another Ultra Jewel, but I'm pretty sure this was the only one on the list for me. But anyway, at 1.4 million, you get a copy of Duke Shade. At 1.9, you get the skill. Oh yeah, no, well, no, because there's 2 more Ultra Rares. Oh, right, because these are now titles. Like, you get a title for finishing off a list of these. My brain's not working, oh my gosh. Because the final specifically stated point reward is now a title, I'm guessing they pushed icons down a few stages to make them easier to get, so maybe that's what it is. It's like this was game mat, this was icon, and then this one way the hell back up here is... I scrolled past it, didn't I? And then this one was like the card sleeves or something, but I don't know what they are. Clearly, I need to wrap this up soon. I'm failing to talk. Clearly, I already have them. That's what my guess would be: is the sleeves, the game mat, and the icon. But yeah, so as usual, you're pretty much guaranteed to find some way of getting 1 copy of each of the event cards. So if Yubel's drop rates are just being absolutely trash for you, or if you just can't cobble together a good farming deck, just bring your best deck and, you know, hope for the best. Sometimes you do get lucky. You don't have to use a farming deck. Sometimes you get lucky. It's just the farming deck maximizes your chances. Might as well take a look at the EX card trader. So if you get 300 EX gems, you can trade them in for either a Terror Incarnate or the Ultimate Nightmare. 300 will get you a Duke Shade or a Grave Squirmer. Yeah, I was right. That was a reward card previously, so kind of sucks now that you can only get 1 copy if you're a new player. Although, to be fair, this is a very powerful card, and I'm kind of surprised it didn't get put on the limited list yet. Anyway. 100 gets you a Hrelsveg. Oh yeah, and this Dendel thing is gone. That was some other previous reward cards. Was Vampire Orcus, which is like a strong plant-type monster, and Desdendel, which is a defensive union monster that you equip to it. And basically, anytime the equipped monster destroys something of your opponent's, you get to special summon a token. Not entirely sure why they took those out, but they did. And then there's just some other assorted random cards in here, like Quick Booster, Quick Play Spell, target a Quick Play Spell card in your graveyard except for Quick Booster, shuffle that target into your deck. Or, if this card you control is destroyed by your opponent's card and sent to the graveyard, you can add a Quick Play Spell card from your deck to your hand, except for Quick Booster. There's this grapple blocker, which is a level 4 Earth Psychic with 1200 attack and 2000 defense. When this card is normal summoned, you can select a monster your opponent controls. Selected monster cannot attack or be tributed while this card remains face up on the field. During each of your end phases, pay 500 life points to destroy this card. So effectively grapples with something and keeps your opponent from really using it. Here's the Vampire Orcus. Basically, when it's normal summon, you get to special summon the Union monster for free if you happen to have it in your hand. And then we have this kind of random normal. I don't remember where this comes from originally, but Infernal Incinerator, a level 6 Fire Fiend with 2800 attack and 1800 defense. Can only be normal summoned or set by discarding all other cards in your hand and tributing a card you control with 2000 or more attack. This card gains 200 attack for each monster your opponent controls, but loses 500 attack for each other monster you control. So, very much kind of a... not necessarily like a lone wolf, but just kind of a all or nothing. That's it. An all or nothing sort of monster. And then things like gold, and back at the other end there's items you can trade your EX gems for instead. And last thing I want to mention, actually, before I end the video, is with the release of this event, Konami has actually slightly changed the way that EX Jewels work. Specifically, what they have done is that events can still give out EX Jewels. However, if there are multiple events running at the same time that give out EX Jewels, they cannot overlap. So, there is a way to change what inventory you're looking at here. I don't think you can right now because I don't think there's any other EX Jewels available at the moment. But say that I could get EX Jewels from the Yubel event and EX Jewels from something else that's going on right now. I don't know precisely what, but something else. The jewels and the cards you can buy, or the jewels you get from the Yubel event, do not mix with the one. I cannot talk. Oh my gosh, I sound like an idiot. The EX jewels you get from the Yubel event do not stack with the EX jewels you get from any other event. And likewise, the cards that you trade for with EX jewels from the Yubel event cannot be bought with other EX jewels, if that makes sense. So if I have 100 Yubel jewels and 200 EX jewels from some other event, I can't buy anything that's worth 300 because the Yubel cards only accept the Yubel EX jewels. So that was just a bit of a change to the system that I wanted to mention. I don't know how often it's going to come into play because there's never been events that use EX jewels that overlapped before, so maybe that means Konami's planning to sort of change that in the future and possibly have multiple events running at the same time, or maybe EX jewels don't expire anymore. I don't know, but I just wanted to talk about that in case you noticed that the EX jewel graphic was a little bit different, and just in case for the future when there might be two sets of EX jewels at the same time. But, yeah, with that, I'm just going to go ahead and end it here before I start fumbling over my words again. So, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all had a great time, and I hope you all have a great day. And I will see you all in the next one.